Well, hello everyone. I'm Dr. David, and welcome to tonight's very, very special webinar. All right, so Dr. Cora Ruff is a bereavement facilitator with many years of experience as an RN, nursing professor, nurse researcher, and international nursing consultant. She has worked in the field of end of life, bereavement, and grief for 10 years. She is a frequent presenter on grief issues locally and nationally, including the Compassionate Friends National Conferences, the National Funeral Directors and Morticians Association, and the Society of Childhood Emergencies. She is well known for her topics on cultural aspects of grieving, taking care of your health while grieving, and the roller coaster of grief, and the workplace series. I'm sure that's going to be really helpful. She was elected to the National Board of Directors, the TCF, which is the Compassionate Friends, and she's going to be talking about an event that is coming up on Sunday. She's on that board where she chairs the Diversity Committee and the Urban Chapter Development Initiative. She is the founder of the new District of Columbia chapter of TCF and has served as its chapter leader for 5 years. She is also a board member of Capital Hospice, and she is really actively, as we have just said, promoting and helping people deal with great grief issues. And really, this is such an important thing that she's doing. And so we are really, really honored to have Dr. Ruff on to do this presentation, and for the presentations she has done in the past, I will be talking about them after this presentation. So, Dr. Ruff, over to you, Cora. Thank you so much again.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Dr. David. Thank you, Dr. David and Sherry, for the opportunity to share with the audience tonight this subject that's near and dear to my heart, which is coping with the holidays while grieving. I am going to be talking to you tonight a little bit about that subject, and I'm going to actually basically talk about a little bit about holiday stress. And I'm going to describe for you what I call the 4 C's for coping with holiday stress. The first C, of course, is choice, that you have a choice in what you do this holiday season. The second C is change. I highly recommend that you do something a little bit differently. The third C is care, that you care for yourself during this time and reach out to help others. And the fourth C is coping with the actual event. And I'll conclude with helping a friend who's grieving, for those of you who may be in that situation. All right. There are lots and lots of events in our lives in which there are times to celebrate and be happy. Those special days are birthdays and weddings and graduations and Easter and Thanksgiving, all of those special holidays. Well, of all of the holidays, probably the one that's the most difficult for people who are actively grieving, it's probably Christmas. And for others, it may be Hanukkah or Kwanzaa, but certainly those holidays, those winter holidays times. So that's what we're going to focus on quite a bit tonight. I can remember very vividly the first Christmas after our daughter Candy died. It was a horrendous Christmas. The second one was equally as horrendous. But I'll tell you a little bit about some of the things that we did do to help ourselves get through those days. But let's talk first about what are some of the sources of stress during the holiday season. First of all, the sources of grief. Particularly this year, many people are experiencing things like foreclosure on their home, job loss, and certainly the death of a loved one is certainly a biggie. And for those of you who may have lost a loved one close to the holidays, that makes it even more difficult. So there's certainly a lot of grief, a lot of sources of grief. And what makes it so difficult is that there's so many things going on. First of all, I refer to what makes it difficult, this happiness bit. Everybody is happy, supposedly, or they're in the spirit, and you're supposed to be cheery and bright and happy. And for people who are actively grieving, we don't feel very happy at that particular time. Another thing is the busyness of the season. There are 101 things to do, and we want to try and do them all. So we'll talk a little bit about how to not try to do them all. Another reason for it is because it is very, very stressful. There are lots and lots of stresses associated with all of the activities that are going on. The wish or the desire to show that you're happy. And then finally, there's a lot of sadness that accompanies normal grief, and particularly during the holiday season, that grief and that sadness is compounded. I want you to keep in mind a few principles here. I call them principles for this whole issue of coping with holiday grief. First of all, there's no one right way to do it. I'll talk about a lot of different ways to approach it, but there's no one right way to do it. Another thing to keep in mind that what you do the first year, you don't have to do it the next year around. If it doesn't work for you, do something differently. Remember also that the anticipation of the day may be more difficult than the actual day itself. And I encourage you to accept the likelihood that you're going to be uncomfortable during your first or your second holiday since your loved one's death. I do encourage you to observe the holiday in any way that you choose, that you feel comfortable with. And we'll talk about that when we talk about that choice, that first C of choice. Remember also that the holidays are draining both physically and emotionally. And do keep in mind, folks, that there is no time frame, and everybody has their own individual journey. There's no one way to do it. And everybody wants to know, well, how long is this pain going to last? How long will I feel this way? Well, there's no time frame on that. Excuse me. All right, so those 4 C's then are choice. You can decide if and to what extent you want to be involved in the holidays. The second C is for change, doing something differently. The third C is to care for yourself during this particularly stressful time. And reaching out to others is one way to give attention to something else outside of our own pain. And finally, coping with the event, focusing on expressing your feelings, focusing on summoning additional support, and remembering. And that remembering is so important. And finally, do know that you will survive the season. You will survive the holidays. All right, let's look more closely at the first C. The first C is choice. Choose what's best for you, whether you want to be immersed in the spirit of the season or whether you want to just sit on the sidelines and let it pass you by. You have that choice. And you may find that honoring yourself and your feelings may be all you can cope with this particular holiday season. Now, I want to say here also that if you have children in your family or in your home, or if you're a caregiver, if you have young children, you will want to obviously consider them. And I want to say a word here about grief in children. Remember, first of all, that yes, children do grieve at a very young age. Remember also that they They may not have the words, they may not be able to verbalize what it is they're actually feeling, but they do grieve and they do have grief pains. What you will see, however, is that they don't remain in that grief situation for long periods. So as a result, you will see them oftentimes crying one moment and outside playing the next moment. So they do grieve intermittently, or at least they express that grief intermittently. But remember to involve them in the decision making. Sit down and talk with the family about what all of you want to do, and try and come to some agreement about what will work for all of you and what's most comfortable for you. And by all means, provide the children and the family support both physically and emotionally. Continuing on with that choice bit, let's look at some ways then that you might choose to do some things. I remember, for example, my first Christmas after our daughter's death. I could not stay home. I just kind of grabbed the family and we went off to a nearby resort and spent a couple days there. Was it painful? You bet it was. It was very painful. But at least it took me out of my normal environment where we were accustomed to having big family dinners with our daughter there, and knowing that she was not there, I just could not bear the thought of being there without her. So that's what we did the first Christmas. And then the second Christmas, actually, I ended up inviting some friends to join us for Christmas dinner. And that helped a great deal. But do choose what it is you'd like to do. You may decide to change the scenery completely and just not even do Christmas. Maybe you might want to go on a trip someplace, go on a cruise. There are many, many cruises available that are fairly cheap sometimes. If you can get a special weekend cruise that's not very expensive, and if you do it on short notice, it's even cheaper. So that may be something you might prefer to do. But you think about your options. If you don't want to be involved in the gift sharing, the shopping, and all of that, then don't do it. Um, because it's not something that has to be done. As I said, the only caveat here is if there are young children, you may need to think about doing something differently there. All right. The choice is yours. You need to decide whether you see the glass as half full or half empty, and let that be your guide about how you're going to deal with the holidays this year. Also, just accept the fact that holidays are going to be different this year, and probably different from now on with a loved one no longer there. I know for us personally, yes, Christmas isn't not the same for us, and it's been almost 13 years now since our daughter, who was 21 at the time, was killed in a car accident in the Dominican Republic, where she had gone to serve as a missionary. So even though and this was the end of January, and when Christmas time came around, it was not the same, and it's still not the same. We do have good Christmases now, but it has taken some time for that to happen. We have done things differently. So you might want to change the tradition, because changing traditions can be very freeing and also very satisfying. You may want to decide what's important. Is it important for you to exchange gifts? If so, then do that. Or maybe you may decide it's not so important to exchange gifts, but you want to give a gift in memory of your child or in memory of your parent or your loved one. Shopping. If you feel like you have to shop, then you might want to shop in a catalog or online even. But sometimes going to the malls is very, very difficult when you're very, very sad. Also, you might want to vary the events. If you do gift sharing on Christmas Eve, you may decide to do it on another day. If you decide to have the family dinner, you may want to do that on a different day. If you worship together, you may do it at a different time of the day or go to a different sanctuary, a different church. And but just doing things differently will be very, very helpful here. So begin to establish new traditions, some things that you haven't done before, or new ways of doing the older things. Then the second is, whoops, I just skipped one, is the change. Change what you do because first of all, you got to accept that the holidays will be different. And I just repeated that. Okay, that was really change that I was talking about, doing something differently. As I said, all right, let me get together here and move on then to care, which is the third C. Care is caring for yourself during the holidays. First of all, realizing that it's going to be difficult, you might want to build in extra support. Say if you're accustomed to going to a support group once a month, you may decide that in December you're going to go to one twice a month or add an extra source of support in there. Um, and I refer to the the C, S-E-E now, the word C, where the first one is sleep. Do get adequate sleep because that's going to be so important. Remember that grieving is tiring, it's exhausting, and you're already tired. So during the holiday season, it's important to get adequate sleep. By the same token, it's important to have some rest and relaxation in there. And a part of this resting and relaxing is breathing. And I want to just say one quick word about breathing because breathing is something we take for granted. It's something we do automatically. We don't have to think about it. But as a result, we don't breathe properly. So if we take a few moments and then just inhale deeply and exhale, it can be so relaxing. So just do that for a moment right now. Just inhale deeply and exhale. I needed that myself. Um, so do breathe, and whenever you think about it, breathe consciously, focus on it. And exercise. Exercise during the holiday is very, very helpful. It relieves stress, and it's helpful all year long, but especially during the holidays when things are very hectic and you're not in a real great mood. Exercise does help cause the body to secrete hormones that do elevate the mood. So exercise is also very important. And finally, eat sensibly. Avoid those rich foods, the eggnog and caffeinated drinks and alcoholic beverages and all of those because they will then accentuate some of the sadness that you may be feeling. Finally, in terms of taking care of yourself, try to incorporate a little bit of humor in there. We know from research now that humor does, in fact, have a tremendously positive impact upon the body. It helps relieve stress, it helps to boost the immune system, and helps to fight viruses, and just overall helps you to relax. So that's the third C, taking care of yourself. Now, the other part of that care is caring for others, reaching out to help others. And this is really, really quite fascinating how this works. Because what happens is when we reach out to help others, it takes some of the emphasis from our own grief so that we actually don't feel our own pain so much if we reach out to help others, particularly people in need. For example, you could perhaps make buy gifts for needy children. Some of the organizations have Toys for Tots. Contribute to that in memory of your child or your loved one. But just reaching out to help others will be so helpful during the holiday season. You might visit someone who's homebound. You may buy a gift for someone who's homebound. An interesting one of our Compassionate Friends members whose daughter died of uh, cancer was hospitalized at Children's Hospital. So what this bereaved mother does every year, she started out with buying Christmas gifts for all the children on the hospital unit where her daughter was a patient. And then that grew into having Christmas for them every year. So for the last 10 years now, Barbara has been having a Christmas party at the local children's hospital, all in memory of her daughter. So this has been helpful for her in that it takes the some of the sting away from not having her daughter with her, but she can reach out to help others who are in need. You can also help out at your local soup kitchen or homeless shelter or your local church. But these are ways to take some of the pressure off yourself for to be happy, but just doing something to help someone else. Then the final C is coping, actually coping with the event. One of the first things here is expressing your feelings. Express how you feel because holidays actually do magnify those feelings of loss. So it's normal to feel down, and it's important that you be aware of that and be willing to share that with those around you. So when you express your feelings, getting them out will be helpful. The other thing that um, is helpful about expressing your feelings and actually feeling those feelings is that part of the healing occurs when you're actually feeling the pain and walking through it. So that's very, very therapeutic. So don't be afraid to cry. Some people don't like to cry in public, but it's not always possible to control those tears. So don't worry about crying in public. People will understand. And if you're like me, I got to the point it didn't matter. I couldn't help it anyway, so I just said the heck with it. But don't be ashamed to cry. Tears are very, very therapeutic. So it's important that we let those tears flow freely. Another thing to keep in mind is if you're angry, express those angry feelings and share them with a trusted friend or a dear family member. If you need to rage, rage because you may be very, very angry, particularly if you feel that the death was unnecessary or uncalled for, or just regardless to what it is, we feel like it should not have happened. So be very cognizant of the importance of expressing those feelings. All right. The other thing is speak up and tell people what you need and what you're comfortable with. People don't know how to help. They don't know what to say or what to do. So you need to let people know if you want to talk about your loved one, let them know. You might even start the conversation. Remember also that if you're at a family gathering, for example, there's going to be little to nothing said about your loved one. For those of us who are bereaved parents, we have all found that nobody dares mention your child. And the only way to get it discussed is if you bring the subject up. I know a number of parents who were just about angry with their family members because they went to the gathering and nobody dared mention their child. So you have to be the one to speak up and say something about your child. And we'll talk a bit in a moment about how to remember your loved one and how to remember your child. But do speak up and tell people what you want. If you want some privacy, tell them you need privacy. If you want peace and quiet, let them know that as well. But it's up to you to let them know. If you want some companionship, you've got to also let them know that. All right. Still under that fourth C of coping is seeking support. Here, and I talked about that a little bit earlier, that you do need to connect with a support group in some way, because sharing the pain does help lessen it, and or it help eases it. So by all means, share with, and we'll talk about a support group, and how to use. Well, while we're at it, I'll just talk about it now. Um, the support group, of course, has a number of advantages. It's an opportunity for you to share your loss with other people, and it's someone to listen to you after your family and friends have gotten tired or impatient with your expressions of grief. The support group is always there. There's always somebody there who's going to be willing to listen to you. So sharing the pain helps lessen it. You can also receive comfort and assurance from the support group. So these are people who have experienced the loss as well. So by all means, seek support. Now, for those of you who are in acute grief at this time of the year, you can locate a support group through your local church or through hospice. Another place to look is Grief Share. For those of you who may not be familiar with Grief Share is a national organization that has it's Christian based, usually associated with churches, and it does have local chapters. You can go online to their website and actually locate a chapter near you. So that's a great resource. And another place, of course, is Compassionate Friends, and that's for people who've lost a child of any age from any cause, no matter how long ago. And I'll talk more about Compassionate Friends in a few moments. But still under this area of seeking support and coping during the actual event is what I call this third segment is surviving. Part of what is involved there is to avoid negative people. And by that I mean there are going to be people who are going to say to you, you need to put that behind you. You need to get on with your life. Oh, you need to be very, very happy. Oh, come on and let's have some fun. And you may not feel like hearing that. So try to avoid those people. You have an idea of who they are already. Also, identify your triggers. What are some things that are going to trigger your sadness or kind of enhance your sense of loss? I know, for example, some of my triggers are mother-daughter relationships that they are having such great fun together because I know that I'm never going to have that again because I have no other daughter. I do have a son, but there's something special about a mother-daughter relationship. So that's one of my triggers. I know that. So identify what your triggers are and kind of, if at all possible, avoid them. Weddings are very, very difficult for me. So I stay as far away from them as I can. I only go if I absolutely have to. But the important thing here is that you will survive the holidays. Yeah, you're going to hurt if it's your first one or if it's even your second one. Because the first holiday you may have been in shock and you didn't feel a whole lot. But by the second one, the numbness has worn off, and yes, indeed, you do feel it. So you're going to have some pain, but you will survive it. And eventually you'll heal. And for the most part, you'll have great, great memories that persist without the pain. And I can assure you, it will happen. It just will take a long time, or what seems like a very long time. All right, should I or shouldn't I? The question always comes up about having fun. I don't want to have fun because I feel as if I'm no longer honoring the memory of my loved one if I have fun. But don't feel guilty for having fun. But by the same token, don't feel guilty for not having fun, because I believe that our loved ones would really, really want us to have fun. So you do have to decide, but don't feel guilty regardless to how it turns out now. If you end up feeling like I shouldn't be having fun this year, and particularly for us bereaved parents, it's a little more difficult for us to have fun sometimes. I'm reminded of a story I heard of some children who were in heaven playing and they were having fun. And Johnny was over on the side, sitting down and looking sad. And his friends kept saying, Johnny, come join us, come play with us. And Johnny said, no, I can't come. I can't play. Oh, come on, Johnny, come and play with us. And no, Johnny, I can't come and play. Why, Johnny? Because my mom won't have any fun. She won't play. So, I think our kids do want us to have fun, and I think they do want us to enjoy our lives. It just takes us a while to get over the hurt and the pain. All right, so it is okay to have a good time. The best gift we can give ourselves and to our loved ones is to live life fully. All right, so some ways to include our loved ones in the season. We're under that coping with the event C now, that last C, and we want to try and incorporate our loved one into the season. First of all, we want to recognize our loved one's presence, and we can do their presence, that they were, yes, a part of our family. And you might start with a cemetery visit. You might go to the cemetery and take a Christmas tree or some kind of a Christmas ornament. The cemeteries are most beautiful this time of the year. So that's a great place to start. You might also share your favorite stories about your loved one over dinner. You might even make a toast. Excuse me. You might want to make a toast to them. You might want to light a candle in their memory. A number of things. Some people have even chosen to set a place setting for their loved one. Uh, these are all ways that you can include your loved one in the season. You can make a holiday ornament and share it with family members. And one other way you can bring your loved one into the season is through the Compassionate Friends Worldwide candle lighting. And that's something that I've been involved with. I guess I'll tell you about that a little bit more when I get to the other part of it. But the Candlelight Memorial, I've been involved with ever since Candy's death now. It's 13 years. So every year this time we have one, and give you the details about that. So in addition to bringing the loved one into the season with us, there's certain ways to remember them. And a great way to remember your loved one is to actually make a gift to a special cause in their memory or in their name. You can do something in a faith community. You can make a contribution to a church or synagogue, place memorial flowers there. Some churches, I know our church does, at Christmas time and at Easter time, they have live flowers. They have poinsettias. So you purchase a poinsettia, and the parents and the child's name, all names are listed in the bulletin. So that's another way to remember your loved one. Um, so special events such as that, or you may think of other kinds of things that I haven't even listed here, but certainly doing something in memory of your loved one, doing something that they might enjoy. Our daughter loved to dance, so I love to dance, and I always think about her and just how much she enjoyed the dancing. Another thing you can do is carry or wear a linking object, something that reminds you of them, either something that belonged to them, a piece of jewelry, or a poem that they wrote or sent you, something that reminds you of them. Or you might even just have a smooth stone, a linking stone that you can actually keep in your pocket. And when you kind of feel down, you can actually just rub your fingers and feel the smooth surface and that kind of thing. So a linking object is also very, very helpful. But you will get through Christmas. Absolutely, you will get through Christmas and you'll be fine. You may not think so at noon on Christmas Day, but you'll do just fine. I do want you to be prepared, however, that after you get through Christmas, there may be an aftermath in which January can bring you some sadness. So just as a word of caution, doesn't happen to everybody or it doesn't happen all the time, but January can bring some sadness also. And another thing to keep in mind here is that for those of you who this is the second year since your loved one died, people are expecting that, it's been 2 years now, so you should be over it. So they don't expect that you're going to be sad. So they don't know that we're never over it. We just learn to live with it. So be aware that they're going to expect you. Oh, you mean you still are not, it's 2 years now and you don't want to do Christmas? How dare you? Well, you are always going to miss them. As time goes on, it does become easier, but it's the second year can be very, very difficult. But most bereaved individuals do eventually begin to enjoy the holidays again. And you hold on to that hope that you too will eventually enjoy the holidays again. It may be just a little bit rough now, but you will learn to enjoy the holidays again. All right, that's for us. Now, for those of you who are listening who may not be in active grief yourself, but may have a very dear friend or a family member who's grieving, how can you help them? Well, first of all, try and facilitate the discussion of their feelings. In other words, let them know it's okay to share with you how they're feeling and listen. Just be a good listener. Don't listen to give advice, but just listen for them to have a sounding board. Let them cry. I said earlier, tears are therapeutic. Let them cry. It's all right. And don't pretend that their loved one didn't die. Don't be afraid to use the person's name, and don't be afraid to use the D word, the death, the died word. We have all these names for it, but don't be afraid to use the D word. Another thing that will help your friend is, and did I skip one? Okay. All right. So listening to your friend, letting them cry, just being there to support them, and by all means avoid cliches. Um, you know, God knows best, and this happens for a reason. You know all those cliches that we use. Try to avoid those cliches. They don't help anyone. Um, just listen. Don't give advice. The person doesn't want advice. They just want someone to listen. Just nod every now and then, letting them know that yes, indeed, you understand, or you are listening, that you do hear them. But just being there will be so important. You don't have to have any magic words, because there are no magic words that's going to take away the pain. But just knowing that you're there will be so helpful for your friend. In summary, this is a difficult time of the year for many, many people. Sometimes it starts at the end of October. Sometimes it starts with beginning of school. But certainly Thanksgiving and all of December, very, very difficult for many, many people. But remember that the holidays, there's no one right way to do it. They will come and you'll be okay. Just decide to choose the degree of involvement that you want to have in it, and change past transitions. Do something different. That will help a great deal. Remember also to take care of yourself. Get adequate sleep, eat properly, do some exercise, and also reach out to those who are less fortunate, those who need a helping hand. Invite someone to your home to join you that maybe is far away from their family or maybe doesn't have a lot of family. So reach out to help others will certainly help ease your pain. Express and share your feelings the day of the event, and by all means, remember your loved one. Bring them into the season with you. Oh, more about friends. Okay, avoiding cliches. I said that. Follow the golden rule. Do do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Think about what you'd like someone to do for you if you were in that situation, and do that. Refrain from advising them. I said they don't want advice. And send them a note. Don't send them a Merry Christmas card or a Happy Hanukkah card or Happy Kwanzaa card. But send them a note. I'm just thinking about you today. I'm thinking about you during this season. That will be much appreciated. Some resources. Um, there are many, many grief resources available for us now. There are lots of grief books available, lots of magazines. All of them are available on Amazon.com, for example. Hospice Foundation has many, many resources available to them through them. Your local church or synagogue will have lots of resources, both material resources and human resources, people who are grief support committees who are available to help you. Of course, the internet has tremendous resources available. Lots of websites. I talked a little bit earlier about Grief Share. Griefshare.com is where you can find out about local Grief Share chapters. They also have information that's available about grief. The Open to Hope Foundation is a wonderful resource. They've got lots of videos available. They have lots of articles. I'm one of the contributing writers for that site, and they've got lots and lots of videos and articles available there on all types of grief. The Mental Health America.net site is a great site. It's got information about grief, but it's also has a short test on depression and memory loss and things of that nature. If you're wondering about your memory, or if you're wondering if you're depressed, for example, you can answer a few questions, and that helps guide you into whether or not it's beyond normal grief and whether or not you may need a little extra support here. BeliefNet.com is a resource also that actually they will send you out, no, I believe it's Grief Share. Let me back up a little bit. It's Grief Share that actually will send you out a grief support message every day for 1 year. You go on the site and you actually sign up, and every day there is a message of encouragement, it's uplifting, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful resource. BeliefNet.com also has some great articles about grief and grieving and coping with it. The AARP has lots of articles on things like grief, widowhood, those kinds of things. That's available on the AARP site. Hospice Foundation has a lot of resources about grief and loss. And Compassionate Friends, near and dear to my heart. It's an international support organization for people who've lost a child, a grandchild, or a sibling. They have local chapters around the country. You may log on to their website, which is compassionatefriends.org, and find a chapter that's near to where you live or work. They also hold an annual event called the Worldwide Candle Lighting, and this has been going on, I think, about 12 years now. Sunday, every second Sunday in December. Sunday coming up at 7 p.m. around the globe, people will be lighting candles in memory of their children and grandchildren. In addition, there will be local ceremonies around the country. The site actually has a list of all of the ceremonies around the country. There will be some associated with local chapters, and other organizations as well will actually join in to post their local candle lighting ceremonies. So in addition to the local ceremonies, as I said, 7 p.m. is the actual worldwide ceremony. So starting in Australia at 7 p.m., people will begin to light candles in memory of their children and grandchildren. And as going around the globe, as each part of the world actually comes into 7 p.m., candles will be lit. And you will, if you could stand on top of the world, you'd be seeing the wave of light as it circles around the world. It's just an amazing event. And so if you can connect with a ceremony someplace, some of you may already be involved with local chapters who are having candle lighting ceremonies. But if you don't have one locally, go to the website, and actually for that 24-hour period, the website will be open for posting messages by bereaved families in memory of their loved ones. You may go on there and actually post a message in memory of your loved one, but you may also go on and read the messages. Beautiful, beautiful messages that have been written by people all around the world. And you actually see the time they wrote it and what city, state, and country they are from. So it's a very, very beautiful event. And I encourage you, those of you who are bereaved parents and siblings and bereaved grandparents, that you participate in the worldwide candle lighting ceremony if you aren't already involved in that. That then concludes my discussion about coping with the holidays while grieving. I want to thank each of you for being with us tonight. I want to thank Dr. David and Sherry for giving me the opportunity to have this discussion with you tonight.